Our podcast guest today was born on the wrong side of the tracks to a teenage mum, and he credits that very same mum with shaping a lot of his own leadership capability. We find out how lonely it can be in the top job, and we explore everything from Indigenous culture to technologies and how leaders stay close to their customers. Please welcome our podcast guest today, Jason Paris, CEO of Vodafone New Zealand.
Jason, welcome along to the podcast.
Kia ora, thanks for having me.
Kia ora, fantastic for you to be here. Alrighty, bit of rapid fire so the audience gets to know you a little better. Are you a breakfast or a dinner guy?
Breakfast.
Yeah, what was on the menu this morning?
Porridge, good for your guts.
I was there with you.
There you go.
Yeah, kicked it off together. On holiday, would you be bungee jumping or on the pool lounger?
Neither. I'm scared of heights and I don't like resting. So I'd be playing some kind of sports or mucking around with the kids.
Right, what's the go-to sport at the moment?
Cricket at the moment for the boys, and soccer for the girls, mainly because I can't do the splits, which is what my daughter would like me to be able to learn over the next few weeks.
Right, a few weeks.
Apparently that's my challenge. She set me, in a month's time, Dad, you should be able to do the splits.
Okay, wow.
Good luck.
Do you realise you're not quite as bendy as you used to be, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't think I can even do the splits, to be fair.
Yeah, okay. Cats or dogs?
Oh, I've got 2 dogs and a cat. Cat was our first child, my wife and I, and so we love them both, but Arthur the cat has a special place in our heart.
Okay, well I'm going to run with on balance, you've gone majority dog, so we can keep going.
There we go.
That works. Your routine, are you an early riser or a night owl?
I'm a night owl, actually.
Yeah.
The kids force me to be an early riser.
Sure.
But I do some of my best thinking actually quite late at night while everyone else is in bed.
Yep, bit of quiet time.
Exactly.
Let it float around. Okay. Entertainment, would we find you watching a thriller or a comedy?
Thriller, without a doubt. I just, actually when I was young, used to watch all the horror movies, read all the horror books, and so I love something that's a bit suspenseful.
Right, okay. Final fast fact, telco or media?
Telco now. It's a good question.
Nicely played. And a question in from the audience, a mutual friend, Jeremy O'Brien.
Jeremy.
Yeah, so best
one of the greats.
Best high school in Invercargill?
Cargill High. A second to Verdon, which he went to.
Yes.
Jeremy's a great guy, and actually played New Zealand schoolboys rugby at first 5 until he blew his knee out.
Yes.
So he's a talented sports person himself.
Indeed.
He's a good guy.
Okay.
Good self-indulgent.
I thought that might be the answer to the question.
Absolutely.
So grew up in Invercargill. Jason, tell me, as a young lad, what did you think you'd end up doing? Do you have any aspirations at that stage?
School teacher when I was at school. So I thought I probably wanted to do, but I ended up working at Trust Bank Southland because my rugby manager when I was playing for Southland age group was the manager of Trust Bank Southland, and so Murray gave me an opportunity straight out of school to go into Trust Bank Southland, and then just the rest of the career took care of itself. But school teacher from an early age.
Yeah. Okay. And you've had numerous corporate roles, senior leadership roles. Do you remember a moment where you're like, I want to be the CEO of one of these organisations at some point?
I think I've always wanted to be in a role that makes a big impact, and so I've been drawn to larger organisations that have scale mainly, so that's been a theme. Very proud New Zealander, even more proud Southlander, so something that is New Zealand focused has always been attractive to me, and then I like change. And so, as you mentioned, media and telco, right, 2 of the industries that I've had a background in. You can't get 2 industries that get more disrupted by technology, competition, consumers, all at the same time. So never a dull moment.
Absolutely.
Being the CEO, I've always had this line, which is my job is to make my boss look so good that they get promoted and I get their job. It's been my focus. And it's clearly worked out at some point in time.
How's the chairman of Voda feeling at the moment?
Marco won't be shaking in his boots.
Not just yet?
No, not just yet, actually. No, not at all. He's a much better man than I am, and he has a skill set across Infratil and Morrison's that I don't think I'll ever have. But I'm very happy and very privileged to be where I'm at. I don't have any line of sight to his gig at all.
Jason, obviously in a role as CEO, leadership is a big part of that. What are some of the key themes you think about around leadership?
Well, first you've got to think about your people, making sure that they are safe, happy, well, productive. We always talk in Vodafone that you can't be great at work if you're not great at home first. And one of the things I learned coming into the organisation was leaving loudly.
Yes.
So I've got 3 children with Rach, and I coach either their cricket or their soccer, depending on which season it is. I leave, early once a week, and I leave loudly, just to kind of set the example of you can make choices and make sure that you don't miss out on opportunities outside of work.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then the second thing is, after your people, is your customers. If you don't have customers, you don't have a business. So those are the 2 big focuses, regardless of what industry or what role I'm in.
And as a leader, sometimes you can feel very disconnected from the customer. I'm interested to understand, what do you personally try to do to make sure you stay close to the customer? And then as someone leading a large organisation, how do you try and make sure the organisation stays close to the customer?
Yeah, so first, personally, I use social media a lot. And I'm pretty active in social media, having a banter and conversations with our customers. So I try and make myself available and accessible, because that's the fastest way to learn. Most of the conversations on social media aren't positive, by the way. It's always people unhappy with something, but it's the best way to understand what's happening into your organisation quite quickly. And when I'm having a conversation with my team about what we need to focus on, I've actually got a fact base, which is proven because it's from customers. That's one.
Do you feel like that fact base might be biased because of that nature of people tending to want to complain on social media rather than celebrate and endorse?
I haven't seen that so far.
Okay.
In general, people are pretty loyal and patient. So when something gets to me, or if I proactively see it in social media, there's normally a series of errors or issues that have gone on for a long period of time. So,
sure.
And even if it is one isolated incident, it's always quite good to remove the issue at the root cause of it in the first place.
Yes.
But by and large, I've found that the themes I get across using social media are the right ones to focus on.
Great.
Yeah.
And when you're getting feedback from customers and decisions need to be made in the organisation, how do you try to structure decision making in an organisation? And we're probably all familiar with the larger the organisation, typically the more layers there are between decision makers and customer. As someone leading the business, how do you think about that decision making piece? Yeah,
so I think first of all it's about prioritisation, and then it's about acting on your priorities. So at Vodafone, we use 2 filters. We use rapid and reinvention. Rapid priorities are no regrets moves that just should be done quite quickly because they are the right things to do regardless of whatever strategic scenario you end up in. And then the reinvention moves are a smaller list of things, but the higher risk, higher reward. You take a little bit more time to evaluate them because when you make a choice, it's harder to come back from them. So we use rapid and reinvention as the 2 filters. Then within those, we then look at whether they are, we've borrowed a tool or a format or framework from Amazon, which is one-way or two-way doors.
Right.
And what they talk about is that 95% of the decisions that you'll make in a business are two-way doors, which means if you make a call and it's wrong, there's always a path back. Only 5% of them are one-way.
Right.
So if it's a two-way door, what is the downside of pushing the decision making as far into the organisation, as close to the customer as you can possibly get it? Because as soon as you make a call, you'll learn from it straight away, and you can pivot or you can build on it. Too many organisations, including us, some of the time, get paralysed by analysis or by opinions. And the best way to remove opinions from a decision is to make a call, have a hypothesis, get it in front of a customer and see how they react with it. react to it, and then you get the facts.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's how we work our prioritisation and decision
good
making.
Framework. I think these kind of decisions you're faced with, they're simple when they're linear. How do you handle the rapid situation where maybe one customer or one customer group is demanding something, but you know that if you do that, then that priority-wise is going to have an effect on someone else in the customer group?
Yep.
How do you think about evaluating the outcomes there?
Well, we'll look at it depending on whatever the value creation is, whether we're looking at improving customer experience, whether we're looking at migrating customers from old technology to new technology, whether we are looking at improving our commercial performance. And so we'll filter or rank them based on the outcome that we're aiming for. But I would say, regardless of the outcome, when you make a decision that you know will be embraced enthusiastically by one customer group and not by another, transparency is always the key point.
Mm-hmm.
So again, going back to, I think New Zealanders are very fair. Even if you make a call that they would disagree with, if you can be transparent about why you've made the decision and they can see the rationale, even if they disagree with it, they'll understand it. Mm-hmm. And I find that in the organisation as well. Yeah. You know, you're going through really tough calls around structural change or investment reallocation, or asking someone to come out of their team and go into a new team, or go out of their job and upskill and reskill into a new job. When you have a conversation with transparency as to why the decision's being made, and it's been made from a place of integrity and with the right values, even if they don't like it, yes, they understand it.
Okay. And dig into that for me a little bit more. How many have you got in the team here at Voda?
3,500 people, 2,000 permanent and 1,500 contractors, which we still see part of the Vodafone whānau. Yep. Okay.
So one of the things we regularly hear back from team members and organisations is, oh look, I wasn't across what was going on, I wasn't party to the conversation, and that's not only a problem of scale, we see that in small, medium and large business. So how do you try to keep your team members, your Vodafone whānau, how do you try and keep them updated and across strategic decisions you're making at a senior leadership and even board level that may have impact on them and their personal outcomes in the business? How do you try to find that balance of getting on and making the decisions that need to be done, but also keeping the rest of the team in the loop?
Yeah, so there's good news and bad news on that one. The first one is we've got a pretty clear strategy in place that most people in the organisation understand and can communicate, because actually the strategy is their strategy. All it is an articulation of what our people have said our customers and they would value the most. Mm-hmm. So it's all good. So that's one. Secondly, we have a series of regular forums that we have open, transparent conversation. So tomorrow we'll have our executive day or morning, and then that finishes at 1 o'clock. And at 1 o'clock we have live stream every week on a Wednesday. Wow. With our entire organisation. It's recorded if you're in a retail store or on a service role, or you can join live, ask questions. Any questions that come up through the week, we always answer them, and everything is on the table. We would normally have a minimum of a third of the organisation watch it every week. Correct. So we know at least 1,000 of our team up to speed on decisions that have been made and what is happening in the organisation. Separately to that, we have a quarterly kitchen chats where we do through the organisation, here's where we're at, what's happening, etc. So we've got a lot of frameworks. I think there's no shortage of opportunities for people to get across. What we don't do well yet is I don't think we document and publish the decisions as well as we could. And so even as an executive, we're just discussing now when a decision's made, who within our team has the responsibility of minuting it, publishing it, and then just, because it's all very well making a call, but it's like Chinese whispers, there'll be 5 or 10% variance,
sure, and
by the time there's a 5% variance on one of my team going into the organisation, it ends up being a 25% variance at some point in time. That's the one work on that we haven't quite cracked yet. So we've got the forums, maybe not the clarity of messaging yet.
Oh, it's phenomenal attendance to get a third of the organisation attending those sessions every week.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
That's a pretty good start. Okay. Vodafone's obviously been through some ownership changes.
Yes.
What are your insights as a leader of some of the challenges that are presented from moving from one owner to another?
Yeah, there's always pros and cons of an ownership change. In this instance, though, I can't overstate the significance of being able to bring Vodafone back closer to New Zealand, and with owners that have allowed us to execute a 100% New Zealand-centric strategy. So we still invest over $100 million a year with Vodafone Group. So
right.
all the products and services, the brand, the IoT platforms, the roaming, access to their buying power globally for 5G technology, all those types of things still exist. But now we can execute those product services and resource in 100% focus on New Zealand, whereas previously we were working to a global framework, which means under my predecessor Russell, I can just dust off some of his business cases from 2015, put them to 2020 and get on with them.
Right.
There were some things that the organisation wanted to do over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years that for a variety of reasons they couldn't.
Sure.
So that's one. The second thing, when ownership change, especially when you're owned by private equity, so Infratil and Brookfield is they have a longer term view on value creation.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you don't have to be on your numbers every week, month, quarter, half, year, etc. But what it does mean is that you can invest now to get a return 3, 4, 5 years out. Whereas a lot of my competitors in telecommunications have a budget that they have to publish publicly. They have dividends that they need to commit to paying. For me and for us, we have the luxury of being able to reinvest our profits for even greater value creation over the medium to long term. So that's been amazing as well. And then the third thing I'd say about our owners is they bring a level of infrastructure expertise that we haven't had before. So Vodafone's kind of like two businesses in one. It's got a retail part of the business, so we serve 2.5 million New Zealanders in their businesses every day.
Yes.
And then we've got a set of network infrastructure assets, so mobile and fixed infrastructure that probably haven't been utilised as much as they could be. And because Infratil and Brookfield own ports, airports, energy generators, they really know how to maximise the infrastructure assets. So I would say those would be the three big opportunities that ownership change has created for us.
And what about the challenge side of that? Is there, I guess I'm particularly interested in a leader's lens.
Yeah.
Was it challenging when there was maybe some uncertainty about what new ownership would look like? How did you think about that as a leader?
Yeah, well, one of the big reasons why people came to work for Vodafone was the attractiveness of the brand,
yes,
but also the ability to extend your career overseas. And so we needed to continue to demonstrate that we're still part of the broader family and those career opportunities still existed. That was one. Two, we introduced the owners to the organisation really quickly, again and transparently, and so they understand exactly the intention behind the organisation. And then three, we put our money where our mouth was really early. So on the 1st of August, over 12 months ago, on the day of the ownership change, we also announced the acceleration of 5G. And so that wasn't going to be possible under Vodafone Group, and now was. And so the organisation could see that we were bringing forward $50 million of capital investment to, accelerate 5G for New Zealand. And they saw actually that this is going to be an opportunity for us to do some pretty special things in New Zealand that maybe weren't possible under previous ownership. So I would again, just say transparency, and then showing some really clear examples that are impossible to disagree with. And it has just been smooth sailing, to be honest, much better than I would even expected it to be.
Okay. And what have you found most challenging in this role as a leader?
It's really lonely, actually. So when you're lonely and you get through into uncertain times, even when they are two-way door decisions, you sometimes have a bit of a crisis of confidence on it. It's a big call.
Huge.
The organisation's looking at you. What if you get it wrong? I haven't probably created enough of a network of other people in a similar position for me to be able to share some of those war stories as much as I could have, which is why the chair relationship is so important.
Yes.
And why with Marco I can be very vulnerable. I don't have to have all the answers. I can tell him what I'm worried about, and I know that it's a safe environment for me to be like that.
Sure.
That would be probably the biggest leadership challenge, is just hard role, lonely, and just like anyone in an organisation, you have these crises of confidence around big decisions that you don't know if you're going to be doing the right thing.
So how do you make sure, or try to make sure, your direct reports yourselves don't end up in that lonely spot?
I share openly how I'm feeling, and I generally find that creates an environment where people feel more comfortable in sharing about what they're worried about. We have reflection after every exec meeting, so the following day, first thing in the morning, we'll go, how is everyone feeling after that? What do you think really well? When people are coming into the room to share something with us, to create the right environment for them to be vulnerable, to
Sure.
not have all the answers. Do they leave motivated, empowered, enthusiastic? Did we leave motivated, empowered? And I get it. I think we get it right 50% of the time, and the other 50% of the time there's always something to work on.
Learn.
So learn. And I've, I don't know. I'm just myself all the whole time. What you see at home and with my friends and with my family is exactly what you'll see with at work. And so I think, that helps too. Just being authentic.
It's a great example, great example of leadership, and you've probably seen some of the work that Google's done around what makes high-performing teams, and psychological safety and vulnerability come out top again and again and again.
Yeah.
So if you have the person in the top seat leading that way, then it's pretty easy for it to distill through the culture of an organisation.
And I think it's always easier to I completely agree with that. It's always easy to post-rationalise it. I just think it's being human, in the main. It's just being
I think part of the challenge, though, is that there are preconceptions around how a leader, regardless of what that role is, should be, and a lot of people still feel like, as a leader, I should have all the answers, and I better not tell anyone that I don't know the answer today, because that'll make me less of a leader, in their understanding. So you might be more evolved by being more naturally human. There's some others that have some ground to make up on you.
Okay, well, there you go.
That'd be my insight. Okay. During that piece there, you talked about speed of decision making and empowerment. How do you try and distill that through the organisation so that someone who's literally on a call in a contact centre with someone who's facing a challenge, how do you try to empower to that level to get the right outcomes?
So we have an induction program called Game On, and I meet every single one of our new starters 4 o'clock on a Monday. And I get them before they're indoctrinated into the organisation, and I talk to them about a variety of things. But what I say to them is, write down all the things you're thinking about coming into the organisation, and your observations and thoughts about what the opportunities will be, because they will be 100% right. And then you're going to go into the organisation, and you're going to bump into processes and policies that don't make sense to you. And you know why? Because they don't make sense. They would have been put in place for the right reasons 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and have no relevance to how we need to compete and serve our customers today. So what I talk to them about is asking for forgiveness, not permission, and that they've got my back. So even if they make the wrong call, but it was made with the right intentions to always do the right thing by our customers and by our people, it can never be the wrong call, because we'll just learn and move on from it. And if anyone gets in their way or they get a bit hassled, then let me know, and I've got their back. So that's the message I try and get to every single person in the organisation. And then every forum that we have, we go back to the strategy. We go back to the behaviours of the organisation, and we highlight and celebrate people that have given great examples of owning an outcome, or being brave enough to front up with feedback to someone, or demonstrated they're absolutely customer obsessed, or have just decided to act now.
Can you give us an example of one of those? One that stands out for you?
What would I give an example? Yeah, actually just recently. So we've just recently appointed a Maori development role within the organisation to embrace Maori culture in terms of strategic long-term value creation, one. Two, because we want to create a stronger commercial relationship with iwi. And then three, because we believe that Māori culture within our organisation should be a really important anchor for us. As part of that, we've pushed out Te Kā, which is a program which immerses you into Māori culture to get you more familiar and more comfortable. And 3/4 of my exec put their hand up. They were told that it was a commitment, that there were no excuses for them not to turn up to commit to it, and it was going to be a series of 9 engagements over 9 weeks, and they couldn't miss any. And a couple did once straight away. Someone who's lower down in the organisation went straight to them, gave them a real good bullet, and said, "It's just not good enough. You're not showing respect to me, you're not showing respect to the program, you're not showing respect to the program partners." And then afterwards came and had a conversation with me and said, "I was bloody nervous about doing that because you're holding the exec to account for not turning up and meeting a commitment." I don't know, that's me thinking about, would I have that conversation with Marco, fronting up with feedback? It's a big leap to make, and I was really proud of her. I thought she did a really good job. And those stories, and how the exec reacted and apologised and were like, "You're absolutely right," and thanked her, means that I think more and more of those conversations will come up and happen in the organisation.
Absolutely. She brought mana to the table.
She did. Yeah, she did. So yeah, super impressive.
Outstanding. And organisations are always grappling with more customers, looking after the ones we've got. Where do you feel like the needle is at Vodafone? Are you highly focused at the moment on acquisition? You're investing crazy amounts of money, $50 million in 5G. Do you need to quickly bring on a whole lot of new customers to justify that investment, or are you back in the let's look after what we've got and the growth will come? Where's the thinking for you?
Yeah, well, we actually don't need any more customers. We've got 2.5 million New Zealanders who we're privileged to serve today. Our best way for us to grow our business, because of course we want to grow, we want to get more customers buying more products, we want to get top line revenue growth, we want profit growth, all those good things, is to sell more to our existing customers. And if we want to grow our mobile base, sell more to our broadband customers. We want to grow our broadband base, sell more to our mobile customers. But there's no way that you're going to get more business from a customer if you're not doing a brilliant job of providing the services that they trust you with today. And I would say over the last 5 years, we haven't been doing that as well as we could. 75% of our customer queries get resolved first time today, but 25% get lost in a washing machine. So if any of your listeners are listening to this, they can think of me as their personal account manager from this point in time, jason.paris@vodafone.com. Genuinely, I want to hear from them because it's the only way I can understand what's happening in the organisation. And just to be clear, it's not a pain for me because other people fix it. I don't have the technical skills to get it sorted, but I can make sure it gets fixed. Mm-hmm. Because increasingly now connectivity is an essential service for people's lives. If your mobile stops, or the connection to your business stops, your business or your life stops, or at least it feels that way. So we understand the importance of the products that we provide, and if we can get that right, then I have no doubt that our top line growth will come. It really surprises me the organisations that are addicted to acquisition, that value customers that have been with them for 5 minutes more than have been with them for 5 years. It's the most expensive way to run your business, to try and build a relationship with a stranger versus grow the relationship with someone who trusts you, has chosen you in the first place. So, but I have to say it's easier said than done. I've been saying that for 2 years. It's my 2-year anniversary this month, and we're only part way there. you'll still see us in market on acquisition drives versus focusing on service and base management, which I think is ultimately our long-term key.
Sure. But it's not about choosing one or the other. Yes, there's an area of focus, but as you said, you still need acquisition in certain areas. So we're always going to see some of that in market from Vodafone.
Correct.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions I'd like to explore, and I'm not sure they're tightly connected with leadership, but they're areas of interest. You're so critical to connectivity.
Yep.
Many of us spend, we literally just couldn't function our personal lives or our businesses without the connectivity that the likes of Vodafone provides.
Yeah.
But you're not very visible in that connectivity until it's not working.
Yeah.
How do you think about that as an organisation? You know, often the piece of the network that you're providing, it's pretty invisible. How do you deal with that?
Drives me crazy, because there will be a customer that goes into a Vodafone store today and spends $3,000 on a new iPhone, and then is annoyed about paying $20 to connect to it. And this is a nationwide 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G network that also beams their connectivity to space and back for $20 a month, and it's still not good enough. But it's not their fault. It's our fault. Like the industry, we haven't done a great job of demonstrating the value that we provide. And I'm not sure there's a way back. I actually think my personal view is that we need to embrace the commoditisation of our networks, and that we actually need to be frictionless. We need to be more like the energy companies that you just kind of set and forget, and that it always works. And actually that's the way you differentiate yourself, because you know yourself, what do you want? You want a great network that you don't really want service, but if you do need it, then you want it sorted first time, and a fair price. And if I get that, and I know I'm being looked after, and I can get the coverage when I need to get coverage, I'm done and dusted. I think on top of that though, if we can get our core connectivity sorted, we do have a relationship with customers that I think can be a platform for us to play a greater role in New Zealanders' lives through curating and aggregating additional digital services. So those applications that you've talked about, we're finding increasingly, especially in business, that we play an advisor role to our business partners when they've got so much choice available to them on private or public, on-premise or off-premise cloud, for example. Someone who is providing connectivity that they have trusted for years to do so can be a trusted advisor in curating and aggregating that connectivity for them in a really easy, safe, secure way. So phase one for me coming into Vodafone and the transformation was being a brilliant digital telco. The second phase for me is being a brilliant digital services provider. And so I think our opportunity will be to play more of a curator and aggregator role. What I don't think that will be is a product developer. My personal view is that these products, the Spotifys, the Xeros, the Microsoft 365s of this world will most likely come from other organisations other than telco. I think telcos internationally have demonstrated that they struggle generally to create the products. They're much better at enabling them and curating them. So that's our kind of overall strategic and plan. Embrace commoditisation, do a brilliant job of providing the services we do today, and then use that trust to create a deeper relationship with New Zealanders over time.
Yeah. And I think that curation and advice piece is infinitely valuable. Having been an organisation that's just done some software purchases, you never quite know about what the software is like until you're deep inside it, and you're always a bit sceptical of who's giving advice from the outside. But if you have a trusted partner, has got some experience, has seen it work in other organisations, is prepared to tell you about some of the warts, that would be infinitely valuable. And as a business owner, I'd pay money for that. So there we go, bit of market research.
Exactly, thank you.
All good. I'm interested in people that you think have shaped your own leadership. Who have you observed? Is there someone that stood out for you during your own career that you've gone, I wouldn't mind emulating some of the aspects of that leader?
Well, my mum and my wife, and I'm not just saying that because that's ticking two boxes.
Some brownie points there, Jason.
My mum had me, she was pregnant with me at 16 and had me when she was 17, solo mum out of Invercargill, from a very, poor the south side of the tracks type thing.
Sure.
The selflessness that she showed, which you didn't really realise when you're 1 or 2 years old or 3 or 4 years old, but the environment that she created, where at no point in time did I ever feel like I couldn't do anything. And I always felt an environment which is full of love and support. And I think that's a massive leadership lesson, right? You can only be, as you talked about before, psychological safety. You can only be at your best when you feel like you're in an environment. And that doesn't mean it's cost a lot of money to do that. It's actually more about psychological safety through emotion and someone believing in you. So I think that's a big tick. Secondly, I did talk about, how lonely a CEO role is. And my wife, she was a partner at Balgully for 10 years and there for 20 years, and so I can have really good conversations with her and bounce ideas off her and get advice and counsel from her all the time. So I think having someone outside of work that understands enough but can give you wise counsel, and that it's got your back and will be prepared to tell you the stuff that you don't want to hear. I think that's really important as well.
Super valuable.
And then I've always gravitated. Actually, all of my bosses through my career have always been about change. I'm definitely not the person to hire or bring into an organisation when you want status quo. I just get bored way too easily, and so all of my bosses throughout my career have created an environment where they've believed in me and they've backed me. And at times, they've grabbed me just as I was about to run off the cliff, but not too often. And so that's meant that I've been given an environment to be bold and brave in. And again, I think those kind of leadership lessons, ones that I reflect and remember myself and try and instill into the environment that me and the team try and create here for our people.
Powerful.
Yeah.
And if you could lead any organisation in the world, other than Vodafone?
Shit, that's a tough question. If I'm answering honestly, I actually would love to go into politics one day, but the thing I need to get my head around is you've got to sacrifice your family for your country, and that's something that I don't know if I could do, even for a period of time. Like anyone who's got kids or sees how quickly kids grow up, I don't know if you can write off 3 or 6 years of not being there as much as you would like to. So my hat's off to the people who are in government or in opposition that are doing amazing things in health and education or infrastructure, foreign policy. But again, I suppose that's going back to what I said, the key drivers for me of my career have always been about the scale of the impact that you can make. And so, that's why I get drawn to big corporates. And if I wasn't going to be with Vodafone, would I do something like that? The hard thing that I'd have to get my head around is I don't think I could ever, not that the politicians do this, but they have to make a choice and sacrifice some things, right, to be able to do it.
I think that, and I just can't see you sitting still for 6 hours in the debating chamber.
Yeah, it's fair.
I don't think that's going to happen.
And also, to be honest, I do like to be liked. And I don't know if I could ever, even if you won your electorate, knowing that 50% of the people you're walking past the street didn't vote for you, how that would go down psychologically for me. Yeah, but I don't. That's as far as I've gone. Again, for me, regardless, it has to be an iconic New Zealand organisation that is going to be doing great things for the country or great things for the world. But I've only been here for 2 years, so I've still got a few years left in me here yet.
Yep, a few things to achieve, a few things to tick off.
Long list.
Oh, I like it. Jason, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. Great insights.
No worries.
And would really like to acknowledge you for how open you've been. You've talked about, even just the aspect of being lonely. I imagine there's plenty of CEOs that don't have the public fortitude to come out and talk about that aspect of the role. So really appreciate you being vulnerable and open with us.
No problem.
But someday in the future you find you've achieved everything you want to achieve at Vodafone and you're looking for your new lifestyle. If you could instantly make that happen, who would you be for a day?
It would have to be in a band probably Chris Martin from Coldplay, in a band, Hyde Park, 80,000 screaming fans. That would be pretty special.
A massive ball of energy.
Yes,
All sorts of things going off.
It would be.
Okay, and do you want to clarify for Rachel, do you want to be Chris Martin just for the artistic, not because of any relationship status? Is that... No, you're good? Okay.
Although he is good looking and tall,
he is,
which is the two things I've always aspired, and I think actually if Rach had a choice, no, she'd choose me. I know she would.
Exactly.
The
perfect one.
Yeah.
Kia ora, Jason.
Kia ora.
Thank you.
Thank you.